Oops. Oh my God. Jesus. Jesus Cristo. What am I doing? Bitch, what? Well, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Just Sean here to talk about some friggin' book series. So recently when I was prepping for my series check-in video that I put up, I was like, I'm curious how many series I have completed. And I've seen some people do this type of thing before, either just listing all the series they've completed or doing a tier ranking thing. And so it got me curious about how many I have completed. And I'm not gonna lie, it's far less than I would have thought. I was a bit like, oh, okay, let me see, how many was it? So 32, and technically one of them I'm like 60-some% of the way through the third book, but I'm gonna finish it soon, so I'm counting it. But yeah, 32 series that I have completed in totality. And it doesn't sound like that many, but when I actually consider the fact that I didn't read fantasy very heavily, which is primarily where series come into play, I didn't really read that when I was younger very much. Yeah, so pretty much all of them were from later in life, and I didn't even really start reading fantasy until about 2014-ish. And then after being on BookTube, of course, now I'm in the middle of a bunch of fantasy series. Most of them, I'm in the middle of them because they're not completed, right? So it's a whole thing. I said in that video too, I don't care particularly about being in the middle of a bunch of series, particularly when it's like that, where I can't finish them because they're not completed. There are several that I could complete that I haven't, so I do try to prioritize those, but yeah. At any rate, there's 32 on this list. All right, so I have 10 out of 10 recommend. This is a series where I'm like, this was really solid all the way around. I really like it. Maybe it's one of my favorites, whatever. Pretty solid is like, yeah, it was pretty good. Maybe not every single book in the series was super great, but overall, I enjoyed it. It's cool, just middle of the road, you know? Blech is like something that was maybe a little disappointing. Brain Empty is, I don't really remember that much, so I don't have a solid opinion anymore. I don't think there's gonna be too many in that category. We'll see. But yeah, so Blech is like technically the lowest of the actual opinions, and then Brain Empty is just, I don't fucking remember. All right, I'm just gonna go through in the order that they appear on the tier maker. What am I trying to say? I don't know. Here we go. Let me get the full screen. Okay, so A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This is the original trilogy, okay? Because the series has continued, and I am not continuing on with it. And this one is a mixed bag because I have never reread it. I do kind of want to reread it, but I just reread the Throne of Glass series and reread House of Earth and Blood and then read House of Sky and Breath. And I'm a little bit Sarah J. Maas'd out for the year, I think. So I probably won't be rereading the first two books in the series anytime soon. But when I initially read them, I was hooked immediately with A Court of Thorns and Roses. And then Court of Mist and Fury, amazing, loved it, had so much fun, whatever. Court of Wings and Ruin, however, disappointment on various levels. It was a very wah-wah ending for me. I unhauled that book and will never reread it. And then, like I said, I decided I don't really care to continue on with the series. So it's pretty solid. It's cool. I don't know. And I would have to reread it, I think. I think if I reread it, there's a high likelihood that it would be in the it's cool category. I think just because I did initially love the first two books so much, I'll put it in pretty solid. The Kingmaker Chronicles by Amanda Bouchette. I really, really enjoyed this first book. The second book was a bit disappointing, but I didn't hate it. And then the third book was wildly disappointing. It's I still liked the characters, but the plot, I just was like, what has happened here? So I think this one I have to put in It's Cool, just because 2 out of the 3 were sort of like, eh. But man, that first one, I really, really liked it. All right, Legends of the First Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. Can you guess? Can you guess where this is going? 10 out of 10 would recommend. One of my favorite fantasy series of all time. I am screaming at everyone to read it constantly, and thus far, everyone I have convinced to give the series a try has loved the series. So, love that for me, and you should pick up this series if you've never read it. All right, the Amberlow Dossier. I have all 3 of these. Where the hell? Up here. By Laura Elena Donnelly. This is like alternate history. So like fantasy technically because it's like a made-up world, but there's no magic or anything. It's like an alternate history of like Nazi Germany, like World War II kind of era. You're following spies and all this stuff. And it's a series that I really enjoyed, but also sometimes I was confused as fuck and like, I don't quite understand. I don't know if I'm smart enough to follow everything that's happening right now. But I liked the characters and everything. So, and I want to reread it. But it's like one of those where I'm like, I think it would end up being in pretty solid if I reread it. But I was invested in the characters, but I wasn't wildly invested in them. I'm going to put it in It's Cool, but it's going to go above that one. The Conqueror Saga by Kirsten White, with Andi Darkin being the first. This is another one that is not technically fantasy. People always call it fantasy. I initially thought it was fantasy. It looks very like YA fantasy cover and stuff, but it's actually also like an alternate history, gender-bent thing of Vlad the Impaler. I have not reread this ever, but I really, really loved it the first time I read it, so I gotta put it in 10 out of 10 recommend. So yeah, and I thought the ending was pretty solid also. Okay, City Brass, the Daevabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. This is another mixed bag because I read these like back to back basically, and I loved City of Brass initially. I gave it 5 stars, I'm pretty sure. I was into the characters for the most part, and I think though looking back, it was more the world. I was really like happy to be in this world that's like a non-European setting. It was different, and all the like djinn, the lore, the magic we were getting introduced to, and all of that, I was just like, I think it was the potential that I was really in love with. Towards the end, there were character things that happened that I was like, oh my god. And in this first book, I didn't necessarily love the main characters. Nahiri and Ali specifically, I was kind of like, I mean, they're cool. Ali was annoying the fuck out of me in this first book. Nahiri was like being kind of whatever, and we won't even get into Dara. But I was like here for the potential, here for the world, like what we were getting set up with. And then the second book, I was kind of like, okay, I mean, it was still good, but I gave it a lower rating. And then the third book, by then I loved Ali and Nahiri, but I didn't really like what was going on in the plot, and certainly Dara just made me want to throw the book into a fucking fire pit. And yeah, I still gave it a high enough rating. I didn't give it like 2 stars or anything, but like with each book, my rating got lower and lower, and like looking back on it, all I can think about is how fucking much I hated Dara. And how annoying he was and frustrating and like not in a fun like love to hate this guy kind of way, but in a like I'm genuinely fucking livid at this character and how they're behaving, and I can't. So I'm gonna end up putting the Daevabad trilogy in It's Cool. Like, it's cool. I'll put it above this one just because I think it had a more solid like ending than that one, but yeah. The Shades of Magic trilogy by V.E. Schwab. This is another one where I loved the first book. And the second book was kind of The ending of the second book, though, that goddamn cliffhanger, I was like, bitch, what? And I needed to read the third one immediately. And then the third book fucking kind of pissed me off. I've said it so many times. There were so many scenes in that book that literally had nothing to do with anything. They were just there, and then, like, you're like, oh, this must be here for a reason, this random-ass fucking scene. and this random ass character that we're just now meeting, and like there's like foreshadowing happening here, right? Like, wonder how this is gonna play out, and then it just fucking didn't. It just didn't. Like, I'm not kidding, like at least 5 or 6 scenes, entire scenes where you're like, all right, what's going on here? Why are we here? What are we doing? No reason. We just fucking were. And I said at that time, I was like, it feels like this isn't the final book. It feels like we're getting set up for more shit, but this is supposed to be the final book in this trilogy, so I'm annoyed. And then come to find out, apparently, that V.E. Schwab is planning to continue the series. But, like, this trilogy should be its own thing. It should sit in by itself without scenes that don't make sense without the context of a continuation series. You know what I'm saying? Like, they weren't just, like, Easter eggs. They were like, oh, we're gonna go follow what's going on over here for a whole chapter for no fucking reason. Anyway, okay, so for that reason, I kind of want to put it in blech, but, like, I generally enjoy the rest of it, so I will put it in it's cool. I felt like I was gonna have a lot in this. Okay, though, Sookie Stackhouse by Charlaine Harris. I have 2 videos on my channel where I reread this entire series and I tabbed based on categories of, like, bullshit behavior on Sookie's part. And then I did 2 videos, part 1 and part 2, of, like, all the ways in which Sookie sucks. And here's the evidence. And so yeah, I don't like the series. I would not recommend this series to anyone. I still own the first 4 books because they were less egregious in their problematic shit. They still had very problematic shit, but it was less egregious than the rest of the series, and the plot was more tight in the first 4 books. Also, the first 4 books that I own are mass market paperbacks that don't have the back. The back cover is, like, ripped off. So I was like, whatever, I'll just keep them. Nostalgia. I do still love, like, Eric Northman, and maybe someday I'll get the itch to just kind of shut my brain off and follow Sookie being a dipshit. Who knows? But yeah, so, like, I don't like the series as a whole. So yeah, there's that. I don't know. I gotta put it in black, though, I think. Yeah, and I love the show True Blood still, even though it also has issues, but it was fun. Okay, the Falling Kingdoms series by, Morgan Rhodes? Is that the author, I think? I read this in its entirety. This is a kind of stereotypical, standard young adult fantasy. It's like, I would liken it to sort of a not very great production value CW show, like a teen CW drama, is like the vibe of this series. It was a lot of fun until the last couple books, and then it was like, the fuck happened here? Like, it was just a solid, like, fun, entertaining time, but yeah, then it just fell the fuck off at the end. And honestly now, though, like, I don't really remember that much about it. I kind of want to put it in brain empty, but I think I remember enough of, like, how I felt about it to safely put it in blech. Okay, the Shattered Realms series by Cinda Williams Chima. So this is a continuation quartet series, 4 books, after the Seven Realms. So there's the Seven Realms quartet, which is its own thing, and then the Shattered Realms is 1 generation later, and, like, a new story. I really liked the first book. The second book was kind of whatever. The third book I fucking loved. It was so great, but the fucking finale of this series was such a disappointment. I feel like I have to put it in black because of that. I'll put it above these ones, though. But then, like I said, like, the third book, I gave 5 stars. I loved it so much. I don't know. Okay, I guess I'll put it in It's Cool. Gilded Cage by Vic James. I cannot remember the name of the series. It's like Dark Gifts. I remember that I liked this. I bought the trilogy in the UK covers because I think they're really pretty. And I liked it, but honestly, brain kind of empty. And it wasn't that many years ago that it was after being on BookTube. So it was like 3 years ago or something, I want to say. I'm looking at it. That's where I'm looking. Yeah, I think I would need to give this one a reread. Like, I feel like it's cool, but I really don't remember very much. I think I have to put it in brain empty. Yeah. Okay, the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. I mean, okay, I think I have to put it in 10 out of 10 recommend. The final book, Yeah, I do. Because I think when I reread it, I think I gave Jade City did I give it 5 stars? Did I? I don't remember. Nope, 4.75. And then 4.5 for Jade War. And then 4.5 for Jade Legacy. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I would still recommend it. I do recommend it, I guess. So I'll leave it in 10 out of 10 recommend. I just didn't love the finale as much as I wanted to. I really liked it. I mean, I gave it 4.5. That's very high for me. But the pacing, I didn't love always. All the many time jumps. My God. So there's that. Okay, Julia of the Wolves by Jean Craighead George. I fucking loved this book as a kid. I read it several times, and it is a trilogy, and I read the whole trilogy. The series, I mean, even the first book, like, all I really remember from it is that I do remember there's a sexual assault scene towards the beginning, and it's like young, like, arranged marriage, I think, if I remember correctly. But then he, like, assaults her, and she, like, runs away and runs out into the tundra and ends up fucking becoming part of a wolf pack. And that's really all I remember from it. And the rest of the series, like, could not tell you what happens. I mean, I was probably in middle school the last time I read it, so I have to put it in brain empty, even though I know that Julia of the Wolves was, like, one of my favorite books as a kid, but don't really remember what happened. And as a whole for the series, I don't know if I would recommend the whole series, right? I can't remember. Phaedra's Trilogy by Jacqueline Carey. This is the one where I am still finishing the third and final book, but I'm like 60% of the way through it, so I wanted to count it for this video. This is one where, like, I want to put it in 10 out of 10 recommend, but I don't think I would recommend it to everyone necessarily. It's just so dense, and the writing style is so, like, wherefore art thou? Like, it's just a little bit more, oops, oh my God, Jesus, Jesus Cristo, what am I doing? Anyway, yeah, it's just like, I don't know, it's just a little bit more, like, dense to get through. So I feel like I have to put it in pretty solid. And while I do really enjoy it, and I think they're so well written, and the politics and all that is, like, so well done, and I am invested in them, and I like the characters a lot, but I don't feel like obsessed. Do you know what I mean? The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. I'm gonna have to put this in pretty solid because I didn't love the first book. I can't remember what I rated it. High. I rated it high, but, like, I wasn't grabbed just yet. And then I started to, like, as the series went on. By the third book, I was for sure, like, in it, and then the fourth book was fucking amazing, in my opinion. So I gotta put it in pretty solid, I think. It's not, like, one of my favorite series of all time or anything. All right, Nevernight. Loved Nevernight. I did. The first book in the Nevernight Chronicles by Jay Kristoff. Loved the first book. I just was like, this is so great, so much fun, the writing style, all that shit. I was here for it. And then the second book, I didn't love the gladiator shit all that much, and I found a lot of the reveals to be pretty predictable. I don't know, a lot of, like, convenient shit was happening, and I just wasn't all that into it with the plot that was going on. And then Dark Dawn. I did not enjoy that book. I was very fucking irritated with the authorial voice at that point because it got ramped up to 12. The sarcastic, oh, I'm so, like, I just, no. So, and I didn't like the ending, like, yeah, just that third book fucking pissed me off. So I'm gonna put this in blech. The Queens of Renthia series by Sarah Beth Durst. I read this a few years ago, so I don't remember all the things, but I really, really liked it overall. I liked all 3 books. I thought the fucking world was so cool, and that's why I was like, everybody should read this. And this is another one where, thus far, pretty much everybody who has read it on my recommendation has really enjoyed it. Like, Elle read it. She really loved it. I got a bunch of other people, like, I think, did Jessie read it? Oh, I don't know if she read this one yet. But yeah, a lot of Ingrid read it. I think Buddy read it, actually, and we both really liked it. And yeah, I think it's pretty solid. It's not, like, one of my favorite things of all time, but it was pretty solid. The Grishaverse Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. Yeah. The first time I read this, I was like, yeah, that's cool. And then I read the Six of Crows duology, and I was like, I think I liked the Grishaverse trilogy better. Then I went back and reread it last year, right before starting the show. But this book series is going in blech. Like, yeah, just no. Six of Crows duology. I'm not going to lie to you. I got to put this in brain empty, I think. I need to do a reread of this to have any kind of I mean, I guess my initial thought is like I would put it in that it's cool. Like, it was cool. I was not obsessed with it when I read it. I will. You know what? I will. I have a solid enough memory of my opinion, I think. I'll put it like, this could change if I reread it. Maybe I'll be like, you know what? That was actually really solid. But right now I'm just like, yeah, it was cool. The Parasol Protectorate series by Gail Carriger. This is one I have to put it in 10 out of 10 recommend. This is a very, like, a specific type of, like, you gotta be in a mood to read this, I think. It's paranormal, alternate history, set in, like, Victorian England with steampunk stuff happening, where werewolves and vampires and other paranormal creatures are known to exist in the world, and they, like, live within society. And we're following our main character, Alexia Terabati, who is a soulless. She was born without a soul. It's a 5-book series, and it's not the most, like, groundbreaking plot or anything like that, but it's just such a fucking fun time. I love Alexia Terabati still. I've reread the series. I think I've read it in its entirety twice, I think. Maybe 3 times, but I think twice. And I love her forever. She's one of my favorite characters of all time. I relate a lot to her in a lot of ways. And it's just fun. It's like a fun romance time. I like the romance in it. I like all the side characters. They're all just so much fucking fun. So yeah, I just love it. It's just a fun time. Series of Unfortunate Events. One of my favorites. Again, the authorial voice. I just love this shit. It is very, like, formulaic. You know, it's like each book, there's like 10, 12 books, and it's kind of the same, like, formula every time. But I just love the kids, and I love the authorial voice. I just love how it's written, so... And I just have such nostalgia for it, too. I wasn't, like, a little kid when I read it. They didn't start coming out until I was, like, in 7th grade or some shit. But I read them all through middle school and high school, and I just love them. The Carrie Diaries, I read by Candace Bushnell. It's actually only 2 books. It's a duology. I don't really remember much about it. This is, like, a contemporary... It's Carrie Bradshaw when she was young. They turned it into a TV show on, like, the CW or something. I don't really remember anything about it, so it's going in brain empty, for sure. The 7 Realms series by Cinda Williams-Chima. I love this series. Not everybody is going to, but I still think I have to put it in 10 out of 10 recommend because it's 4 books, and it's kind of your standard young adult fantasy stuff going on. But I just think it's one of the most solid series I've ever read, where, like, each book is, to me, in my opinion, was, like, really solid. So, for that reason, I gotta put it there. And I've read it twice, and I liked it both times. The Face on the Milk Carton, it's like Genie something trilogy. I read this a few times as a kid, but I don't really remember it, so I kind of feel like putting it in brain empty. I just remember that I really liked it. I mean, obviously, I read it a few times. My copies of it, of the whole series, are, like, beat to fucking hell. So maybe I should put it in pretty solid. I just don't really remember it. I would have to reread it. I gotta put it in brain empty, but I'll put it, like, up here. Okay, the Mistborn trilogy, First Era or whatever, by Brandon Sanderson. I'll put it towards the top, but I have to put it in blech. I'm sorry, fight me. I loved the first book. Don't remember what I rated it, but I rated it highly and was like, hell yeah. Fuck yeah, I'm here for it. And then the second book, I was kind of like, okay, I'm not loving some of the stuff going on with one character in particular. And the writing style was starting to bother me. I was kind of like, all right, man, whatever. And then the third book, I was getting sick of it. I was very sick of it. The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I mean... I feel like I have to put The Hunger Games at the very top of the list just because I've reread it a couple of times and it holds up, man. It holds up so well for me. I just love it. I gotta put it towards the top, even though I do have issues with some things, but I loved it. I love it. Okay, the Immortal series, I think is what this was called, by Julie Kagawa. I read this. It's like some vampire series. It's like what is it? I don't remember. The Immortal Rules, some other shit. I don't know. I don't really remember this, like, at all. I kind of want to reread it sometime, but yeah, I'm going to put it down here. Brain empty. Don't really remember. Don't know. The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. I love this duology, and I did recently reread it, and it held up for me personally, and I loved it the first time I read it, too. I was just obsessed, so I think I gotta put it in 10 out of 10 recommend. The Rhaenyra Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan. This was his first published series. I read the Legends of the First Empire series first, those 6 books, and then I read the Rhaenyra Revelations, and I liked it. Love Royce and Hadrian. And I loved seeing all the Easter eggs. That was like my favorite part of reading the Rhaenyra Revelations. But honestly, as like a whole, the series, I'm like, is it It's Cool or Pretty Solid? I feel like I have to put it in It's Cool. I'll put it towards the top. Yeah, I wasn't like blown away by that series by itself. This Savage Song of V.E. Schwab, Our Dark Duet is the next one. It's a duology. I gotta put this in Blech. I just straight up, I'm gonna put it towards the bottom of it too, because I just didn't care. I just did not care about anything happening in that duology. The Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I hold nostalgia for this. This series has some of the most like fun, just epic, sometimes a little cheesy action movie, CW show, like, oh my god. But I eat it up. This series has so many of those moments in it, but it also needs a lot of editing, and it has a bunch of bullshit-ass romances that I don't fucking care about at all, and that I don't think she does well in the slightest. So it's like a mixed bag. I would definitely put it above A Court of Thorns and Roses series for now. I need to reread that, but I like the characters more in the Throne of Glass series. Like all the side characters, like the crew of characters we're following, I prefer the Throne of Glass characters. Would I put it above The Faithful and the Fallen? I mean, it's like, for the fun factor, I kind of want to put it like at the top of the Pretty Solid, but then I'm like, I don't know if I can. I'm gonna put it right here, I think. Yeah, above Court of Thorns and Roses, but behind it. It might be ahead of Malice. It might be ahead of The Faithful and the Fallen, but I don't know. Nah. I'm gonna leave it. I'll leave it. And then Twilight, the final one. I would always talk shit and be like, Twilight's dumb, it sucks. And it was when I was working at Hollister. I was an assistant manager, and that's when I read The Hunger Games, and I was like telling everyone to read it, and I was like, if you like Twilight, absolutely read this, it's so much better. But they were like, how can you say that? You haven't read. I'm like, I've seen the movies. I know the story. I'm telling you this story is better. And they were like, you can't say that unless you've read the whole series. So I was like, fine, I'll read it. And I read the whole series. And then I was like, yeah, it still sucks. Like, and no shade to anyone who likes it. I have fucking Throne of Glass pretty high on this list. So like, I'm not throwing shade at you if you like liked it or have nostalgia for it or whatever the hell. But like, it's not very well written. It's just not. And I think I have to put it at the bottom, like at the very bottom. I basically spite read it. Well, there we are. Let me know in the comments if you horribly disagree with me on any of these. But yeah, I don't know. I feel pretty good about that. Like I said, there's a couple where I'm like, maybe I would put it there. But I feel pretty good about this as is. Yeah. Like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined and haven't already. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.